Deal to resolve Ukraine's crisis after deadliest day of violence yet. China slams upcoming talks between Barack Obama and the Dalai Lama, and locally more consultation on political reform on the cards.
Good evening. The government of Ukraine says a tentative deal has been reached to end the deadly street battles between police and anti-government protesters. And a short while ago, President Viktor Yanukovych announced early presidential elections and promised to form a coalition government. At least 77 people have been killed in the violence since Tuesday, including dozens yesterday. James Aiken has more on a country in chaos and with hopes to end the bloodshed.
Later.
Very difficult was how one source described talks between the government of embattled President Viktor Yanukovych and the opposition. Then, after negotiations that went late into the night, the president's office announced that it had reached a deal to end the deadly battles. Few details were provided, and there's been no word from European mediators or the opposition, which reportedly wanted time to consult. Meanwhile, on the streets of the capital, the struggle for the soul of Ukraine continues. The country is enduring the worst violence it has seen since it won independence from the Soviet Union more than 20 years ago. In the last 2 days, dozens have died and hundreds have been injured in a level of bloodshed that has shocked the international community. Earlier in the week, riot police attempted to retake protest strongholds in Independence Square. As the violence escalated, government snipers took positions on rooftops, inflicting more terror on the demonstrators. Through it all, the protesters and their camps remain. We have fought those slaves inside us. We are not slaves any longer, says protester Elena Javrina. Enough of the blood. How much has been spilled already, another protester asks. Yanukovych and the opposition have been locked in a battle over the identity of Ukraine, which has divided loyalties between Russia and the West. The demonstrators are demanding the president resign and want early elections. Yanukovych, who triggered the protests by backing away from a deal with the European Union in favor of closer ties with its former master, has made some concessions but has so far refused to step down. James Aiken, TVB News.
The European Union has agreed to impose sanctions on Ukraine following a day of bloodshed yesterday. As Alan Booknear reports, the EU has also warned it will ratchet up the pressure if the situation gets worse.
In the light of the deteriorating situation, we decided as a matter of urgency we needed to look at targeting sanctions. We've agreed to suspend export licences for equipment for internal repression. And we've asked the relevant working bodies of the Council to make the necessary preparations immediately.
At an emergency session in Brussels, EU foreign ministers also agreed that measures against Kiev would include visa bans and asset freezes.
There is widespread horror in the European Union, as well as in the United Kingdom, at the scale of the loss of innocent life.
The sanctions will also target specific people who are considered to be responsible for the violence, including Ukrainian government officials and protest leaders.
We've asked working groups of the European Union to work on the list of people to whom it will apply. Obviously, that list of people may change as time progresses.
United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon agreed there is enough blame to be spread to both sides.
I'm appalled by the use of firearms by both the police and protesters. The United Nations continue to stand with the Ukrainians and with all Ukrainian people, and will do its part to support a peaceful resolution to this crisis.
The threat of sanctions against Ukraine also came from the White House. In a phone call with Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, U.S. Vice President Joe Biden said Washington is prepared to sanction individuals deemed responsible for the violence. Alan Booknier, TVB News.
To other news now, China is urging U.S. President Barack Obama to scrap a meeting later today with Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama. The exiled leader is in Washington on a speaking tour. He's well known for his struggle for greater Tibetan autonomy, something fiercely opposed by Beijing. In a statement, the Chinese Foreign Ministry called the planned meeting a gross interference in China's domestic politics. It accused Obama of allowing the Dalai Lama to use the White House as a podium to promote anti-Chinese activities. Beijing routinely protests when world leaders grant an audience to the exiled spiritual leader.
Locally, the government is planning to hold a second round of meetings with political groups on constitutional reform. As Evelina Lone reports, officials from the central government's liaison office will be invited to attend.
Pan-democratic lawmakers and the government have not yet agreed on the way forward over political reform following the first round of dinner meetings hosted by Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam last month. The government is now organizing a fresh round of talks. Apart from legislators, officials from the central government's liaison office will be invited to attend. Today, the Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs said such meetings are not just for show.
It actually provides a very useful platform for all stakeholders to come together. And therefore, the second round of discussion, as you can see, is hosted by SAR government, attended by legislative councillors, as well as the liaison office representative, and thereby actually bringing the three stakeholders together to exchange views on a more informal and relaxing manner, so as not to put too much pressure on any party, so that it would be conducive to a more honest and direct exchanges of views.
Some lawmakers welcome the proposal, but believe more could be done.
Democratic camp's thinking is that it would be even better if we can arrange individual political parties to sit down with officials from the SAR government and the liaison office on their own. I think if that can be arranged, I think the exchange can be even more frank and direct and possibly more helpful.
But some called these informal meetings inappropriate. Albert Chan of People Power said political reform is a serious matter and there should be formal discussions. He says these informal meetings show that the future of political reform in Hong Kong has already been decided. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
A group of pan-democratic lawmakers today pledged support for a freedom of speech rally set for Sunday. It's organized by the Hong Kong Journalists Association.
We think it's very important for the Hong Kong public to understand that freedom of the press and freedom of expression are at stake. So it is very important for people to come out to join the demonstration, to show their support for the brave journalists and to show Beijing and the international community, the Hong Kong community, that Hong Kong people do care about these freedoms and hope that there will be less pressure being exerted on the news profession. It is very important because without press freedom, all the other freedoms are at stake.
Lawmakers will resume debate of the stamp duty amendment bill at LegCo later tonight. The Secretary for Transport and Housing says he's not confident that the bill will be passed. Ronnie Samtani reports.
After the bill passed its second reading yesterday, lawmakers debated a sunset clause or expiry date for the higher stamp duty aimed at curbing property speculation and cooling prices. Some support such a move, but others expressed reservations.
As a sunset clause can serve as an effective instrument to compel the government to act on its duty to review the BSD regime before the sunset date.
If the market goes up by 50%, then isn't it foolish to have the provision cease to take effect? And from now to 2014 to 2015, even if market remains stable, does it mean that nothing will happen because everyone will be observing the market and wait for the BSD and SSD to cease to take effect by then?
Secretary for Transport and Housing Anthony Chung is against the sunset clause.
The government does not have a crystal ball. The truth is that we cannot speculate on market changes and external factors and then casually and randomly set a date in 1 year's time or 2 years' time in order to decide when we no longer need to apply the measures.
Chung expects the vote to be close. Financial Secretary John Tsang today appealed to lawmakers to pass the bill.
What we are trying to do, as always, is to allow the government to make a quick as well as a clear response to any change in the market, and that's what we have done.
Anthony Chung explained that a sunset clause will send the wrong message to the public and may even weaken the effect of the property cooling measures. In the end, he reiterated that the government will consult the Legislative Council when making changes to the stamp duty measures in the future. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
The LegCo Finance Committee today approved compensation to chicken vendors affected by bird flu. The entire amount totals $17.7 million. Vendors get $30 for each chicken that was culled recently. They will also get a special payment of $30 per adult chicken over a 21-day ban on live poultry that ended earlier this week. And still to come in our newscast, security chief defends draft police guidelines over swearing. Farmers in Thailand call off protests. And Russia grabs gold in women's figure skating in Sochi.